Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics. And oh dear. Conservative MPs have been getting some tangles this week. One of them concerns our soon-to-be, if perceptions are accurate, Prime Minister Boris Johnson. So he was involved in a violent argument with his partner, someone he is living with after he left his latest wife last year. Shouting was heard, banging was heard, plates were smashed, get off me was heard from Johnson's partner, prompting the neighbours to become concerned for her safety, as you would, and call the police. He could be heard refusing to leave the flat when she told him to, and also shouting at her to get off his laptop. A number of plausible explanations come to mind, and not all of them are serious, but what prompts me to talk about it is the behaviour of his supporters in defending him. I mean, a Conservative on Newsnight tried turning the incident into an example of his virtuous behaviour. He said, oh, it's actually good that this has been reported because it shows that he's just human, a normal guy. No. I myself have had to call the police before for a domestic incident involving a neighbour some years ago. Similar thing in that the police came round and then went, and then you spend the next few months wondering if it was just a one-off blazing row or if the abused partner was just being more careful in future in order to preserve the relationship. But I've never taken part in such a row. I've had a long-term partner, and the fact that I'm now single does sort of indicate it didn't end well. But, you know, we never rowed, we never shouted at each other, we never threw things at each other, we never threw things just to the ground, we never broke each other's things, at least not on purpose. You know, we didn't use physical force against one another. Violence isn't normal. It's for violent people. Yes, everyone can be driven to violence with enough provocation, but spilling wine on a sofa or grabbing a laptop is not really going to do it unless you have a very low threshold to be triggered. In fact, if there was anything that came to light from this story that might almost warm you to Johnson, was that at one point his partner, when complaining about the wine that he'd spilt, and it may have been the argument that started as simple as that, said that he didn't care about money. Well, that is a virtue, but I don't think she got it right. If he didn't care about money, he wouldn't have stood in the dirt delivering a crap speech in front of a JCB that, unfortunately, did not roll forwards. Naturally, the vilest of the Tory protectors are trying to turn the neighbours into the offenders here. A Telegraph journalist was asking if the neighbours were breaking the law by recording, as she put it, private conversations and publicising them without permission. Obviously, they were recording in their own home, not Johnson's home. The fact that Johnson and his partner were bellowing so loudly that it made their house shake really rather stopped it from meeting the requirements of a private conversation. But Alison Pearson, who's the journalist in question, knows this. It's simply an effort to make Johnson out to be a victim. It follows along exactly the same lines as with Mark Field. It's an all too common tactic for suppressing the law and justice to argue that the people who shine a spotlight on the wrong and even potentially illegal behaviour are doing it for political reasons. And maybe they are. Maybe those neighbours would have called the police but not contacted the Guardian if it weren't that they were politically opposed to him. Or perhaps they just dislike him as a person. I mean, they do live next door to him. They've got good reason. But all that means is that if they'd been supporters of his, this information would never have come to public knowledge. And potential assault is not a private matter. It's a potentially criminal matter, even though in this case, it may not have been. And as so often happens in domestic abuse cases, one partner for some reason values their relationship more than their own dignity and safety within the relationship. But the events occurred. They are not exaggerated claims of a political opponent. They were recorded, a recorded series of facts. But let's not go mad. Nobody is saying that Johnson assaults his partners or that he was even assaulting this one. When she screamed, "Get off me," he may just have been grabbing his laptop back off her. He was heard screaming for her to get off it. The banging and crashing were not necessarily the noise of missiles being hurled in narrow misses that struck the house instead, but were maybe just raging on both parts and were being thrown nowhere near the other party. So this isn't about whether or not Boris Johnson assaults women, whether close to him or not. This isn't like the Mark Field issue. What appalls me about this is two things. First of all is the nature of the defence used. They were drinking. There was no evidence of physical attacks. I've already given a plausible explanation of the get off me, and both parties said everything was fine when the police arrived. The police left, not really being suspicious. Yes, that's not proof that it was just a very heated argument, but it could well have been. But that was not the defence used. People immediately swung into action attacking the concerned neighbours, saying that their privacy should be exposed, that they should be put on the spotlight simply for reporting a potential crime and showing concern for the safety of a neighbour. And the second grave concern I have is that the police tried to cover it up. And this is what's serious for me. When contacted, the police denied that there had been such an incident at the address given. Now, police reports are a matter of public record. When asked about them, police don't go out giving lots of unnecessary private information, but they do have to reveal the nature of reported incidents and when and where they occurred. But they didn't. It's only when the Guardian journalist provided the case number, the reference number, and the identification of the police vehicles dispatched that they owned up to it. So the police were avoiding providing details of an incident and only backing down when it became clear that the interested caller knew anyway and that they'd be in serious trouble if they continued to deny it. We already have a situation where the Metropolitan Police have been stopped from investigating crimes related to the Brexit campaign by the Prime Minister, simply because her own MPs were involved. Now the police have been told to cover up for the probably future Prime Minister as well. Incidentally, an MP that was also involved in the investigation that the Met have been blocked from investigating with the Leave campaign. So that's what my issue is here. If the incident has simply been reported as it was and that's an end to it, and as much as I loathe Johnson, I'd have been more than happy to put it down to potentially drunken slanging match between lovers. But the nature of the defence and the cover-up really is what makes me think, well, maybe there's more to it. That at least such incidents are not unheard of, and that perhaps we only found out about this one because the neighbours didn't feel like being part of a cover-up for the behaviour. Maybe those same neighbours have experienced this before and on this occasion decided enough was enough and recorded it. If it really was a one-off and just a noisy tiff, why cover it up? Why didn't Johnson just say, well, do you know what, we both got a bit drunk, I spilt some wine on the sofa, she wasn't happy, she was trying to delete all the horse porn on my computer in retribution, I told her to get off it and grabbed it off her, she threw a few plates and then the police arrived. Why not just say that? Would have been embarrassing, but no more than that. And it's not like the cover-up or defence has helped take the edge off the situation. The situation has been reported as is. It was recorded. If anything, it's just making people like me look a bit closer to what he's hiding behind his back. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand that stories like this don't do a leadership hopeful's chances any good. He's in the middle of a leadership campaign. But as I say, the defence and cover-up didn't do anything to stop the story coming out and never could. The story was already out. So why offer the defence they have? A defence that not only suggests that domestic violence and abuse is a private matter, but that people who report it should themselves be investigating the full glare of the public spotlight, an action that would only reduce the chances of reporting potential crimes. And the only conclusion I can come to is that either it wasn't just a simple fight, where neither party was actually in danger, but his supporters know that he is the sort of person that is domestically abusive and wants to not only head off this incident, but potentially any past or future ones that may come to light as well. Like I said before, people who have violent rows are violent people. You know, most of us have to be pushed pretty hard to explode. It's not normal. Mind you, once they move into number 10, his neighbour will be the Chancellor, hand-picked close ally of his. Can't see a close supporter of his deciding to record him or report him to the police. Not that they'd have to report him to the police. They do have police stationed outside number 10 anyway. But there you go. That is the story as I see it, and those are my concerns with it. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe for further content. And until next time, I'll see you later.